introducing Tom, and Tom is starting WordPress #2 class.
Okay, so how many of you did not attend the meeting last time? I'm only recognizing like 2 or 3 names that actually raise your hand if you did attend the last meeting.
Okay. Noel, Jay, Kristen, only 3 attended.
Okay. Okay, so for those of you that did not attend and you're interested in getting a website in which you can practice and learn the things that we're going through tonight, reach out to me towards the end here or send me an email. I will put my email address in the instructor at There is my email address. If you are interested in getting a website that is fully functional, you can do basically anything you want to it. It'll be available for you for a couple of weeks, and then it'll be cleaned off. But if you build something and you want me to save it for you, let me know and I can export that site for you. Okay. But otherwise, we're just going to walk through a site. For those of you that do have your websites, please go ahead and log into them if you remember what they are. Is there anybody that doesn't know the credentials to log into their website? No? Okay. So last week, if you remember, I lost connection, the whole bit. I figured out that it was a power issue. So hopefully we don't have any issues this week, but I spent a bunch of time talking about why we would use WordPress instead of how to use WordPress. So what I'd love to do tonight is to just kind of walk you through how things get done on WordPress. How do I add a user? How do I create a page? How do I build a page? I don't even know how to build a page. I'd like to walk through that with you tonight. If you have your site, you can build it along with us as we go along, or you can just kind of take notes as we go along, and then you can recreate it afterwards when you have some more time. Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. Make sure I have the right. Okay, I think I have the right screen. Okay, yes. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, and I know up here on this left-hand side, I have my Gmail open with 91,000 unread emails. Don't judge me. My iPhone has a number of accounts, Gmail accounts on it. I'm at about 122,000 unread emails. So I'm a busy guy. That's all I can say. Okay. All right. So if you recall, I'm just going to recap a little bit. So this, when we go to a website, can everybody see my screen okay? Yes? Okay. So yes. When we look at the go to WordPress, this again, what the user sees is called the front end. And then this, when you're logged in, you'll see that there's the back end, which is basically to go to the dashboard. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to walk down a couple of things here on the left that will help you to figure out, how do I create a user? How do I create a post? How do I see what plugins I have? So I'm going to walk through this. If you have a question, again, please, if you can't figure out how to raise the hand, just go ahead and turn your mic on and speak up. It's not a problem. There's no such thing as being ignorant or disruptive. Just go ahead and ask the question if you need to. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is right here at the dashboard. It just gives you some oversight. not real important for us to learn it today, but when you do have your own site, take some time and look through this. There's some good information there. Okay. We're going to come back to posts, but we're going to talk about the media area right now. So if I click on media, and media for WordPress basically talks about anything that you upload, meaning it can be a PDF, it can be a Word document, PowerPoint slide, it can be images, it can be movies, whatever it is that you want to upload for use on your website, this is where you would do it, okay? So if I wanted to add a new piece of content to my video library or to my media library, I'm just gonna pop over here to, I'm gonna go to a place called unsplash.com. And Unsplash is a fantastic resource. All of these pictures you see are royalty free. You can use them on your websites. You can do anything you want with them. You can even change them if you want. For instance, this picture here with the hot dogs, if you only need to show one hot dog, you can crop and change this and use it royalty free. You don't even have to give credit, okay? It's appropriate to give credit. But let's say that I want this hot dog picture. I can either just click on it and it brings it up large, and then I can press download free. And now you see that it's downloaded to my local computer. So I'm going to go back to my media library and I'm going to say add new. Then I'm going to select files and I'm going to my downloads folder right there and I'm going to open. Depending on your internet speed, upload speed, it may take a minute or two. Okay, so now there's my picture. And here is all of the information associated with that picture. When I want to use the picture, I can just copy this URL that's here. I just copy that and I can paste it wherever I want. But as you'll see in just a few minutes when we actually do a post or a page, there's a much easier way to get a picture into your post, okay? If you wanted to delete something, so here is the picture and it's not really the one I wanted, all I need to do is press this delete permanently button over here on the right-hand side and it will be gone. I'm going to keep it for now just so I have something to work with, okay? When I go to my library here, you see that I can filter, excuse me, I can filter all the different types of media, and I can also look at what months or years that I've uploaded stuff. So it's very helpful. I can also actually search. So I think this W starts with a WP. So I'm just going to put WP, and you see that it searched it and it actually found it. I can, let's see what the name of this one is. This is ballpark. So I'm just going to type in the word ball. And now you see that it filters right away. Very time-saving right there. Okay, we're going to come back to this library, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how you get things out or in and how you get things out. One of the other ways, though, actually, is if you say add new, I can actually open my, I don't think you're seeing that, but I can open up anything that I have on my computer, and I can just drag and drop it. Do you see the screen change? It says drop files to upload. I now just drop that and boom, there's the picture. Now that's cooler than the other side of the pillow. I don't care who you are. That's cool, right? Okay, so that's media. Any questions about media? No. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know. Was there somebody else that was trying to ask something? You can go first if you want.
Nope, I guess not, David. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, just as far as the images go, you were indicating a URL for that hot dog photo initially.
Yep.
When you were talking about how to actually plop it into your page or post.
Right.
If you leave it that way, does that mean that you are going to be the load time is going to be different from the user perspective when you go to that page or post? Is it going to load? Is it going to take longer to load because it's looking for that URL versus the actual file?
So if you put, the best thing to do for beginners is to use that entire URL. However, what I tend to do is I only use this /WP content and back. Because what will happen is if you have this HTTP in the front, the call for the picture will actually leave your server, go out to DNS and then come back and then provide the picture.
Right.
But if all you have is the /content, it never leaves your server. You're saving, milliseconds. You're saving less than a second or two, perhaps. But if you have a large site with lots of pictures, those milliseconds start to add up. But yeah, that's a good thing there too. Real quick, while we're here, you notice that the size of this picture is 2,500 by 1,700 pixels. That's a fairly good sized picture. And you see that it's 903 kilobytes. So it's actually about almost a megabyte. So think about it. If you just put a little, 1 inch by 1 inch picture of these hot dogs on your page, you're actually having that person load almost, a half a megabyte. It's 603K. But you can actually edit that image. And you see where it says here, original dimension is this size. I can actually come in here and make a new dimension of this picture and say scale. And now that scaled picture is now actually going to be used and saved instead of that very large picture. Okay, but you can do other things here. You can rotate the picture, you can flip it horizontally, you can flip it vertically. You do a number of things here. You can crop it, as I mentioned. So if you decide to crop it, let's see where we are. Not sure why. Oh, there we go. So now if I crop it right there and I press save, it should have given me that cropped version, but it didn't. But you can see the various things that you can do here with the image right here in WordPress. Okay. All right. So that's the library or your media library. I'm going to skip pages for right now, but I'm going to go over here to appearance. So what appearance actually does for you is it allows you to choose a theme. And in all of the websites that I have provided to you or will provide if you don't have one right now, there are a number of, if you would, professional themes that I've provided for you. This company Themify is a great company, has lots of themes. I'm authorized to provide these to you at no cost. I have a lifetime subscription to it, so don't feel like you're stealing or anything like that. But these ones named Themify are very complex. They add lots of functionality. They add a builder to it. It can get pretty complex. So it varies on what theme you choose. But if you notice right now, we have the active theme is called 2020 right here. I feel like a Barbara Walters impression right there, 2020. Okay, so if I open this site right now, you see how the layout is, the color scheme, and all of that, right? This is how it looks. But if I come over here to the theme and I change it to, let's say, 2019, just pressing activate. Now, if I come to this page, you see how the pages have changed. The layout, the color, all of that has changed. So depending on the theme that you have, here's 2021, depending on the theme that you have, it will provide different colors, different layouts, different things. You see there's now a menu up here, right? So, sorry, are you guys seeing the menu for Zoom as well?
I was gonna say we're not, but I think it might be just the way that you set up your sharing through Zoom. If you share your screen instead of this window, we'll be able to see the file manager and everything too.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I do. Actually,
Yeah.
what I want you to do is to just be able to see the web pages. Are you seeing the
Okay.
web page
Yes.
itself? Okay.
Yes.
The reason I ask about the Zoom piece is that the toolbar for Zoom was
No,
right in the middle,
we don't
but
see
you're not seeing it. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so the reason I'm pointing all of this out is that when you decide what theme you want, typically a theme will be the layout, the color, the feel. Depending on which one you add, you might get some additional functionality. So for instance, I'll activate this professional theme. And you'll notice on the left-hand side here, you see now it says Themify Ultra. And I get all of these extra things that I can do when I create a page. It's not something I'm going to go through, but I can add skins on here. I can cache stuff. I can do all kinds of stuff. But for our purposes, what I want to do is I want to start with a very simple theme. So we're just going to stick with the 2020 and we're going to activate that. And then this is what our page looks like. Okay. But just know that themes can be as simple or as complex as you'd like. I'm sorry, somebody had a question.
I was just going to ask, because this is something that, mind you, I haven't really totally grasped yet, because I haven't really done much inside of the classic editor before, which
Okay.
I think is what you're using right now for your editor. And I never really quite understood that, when you pick a theme, why the elements are the only things that are actually showing up. Because usually, like if you're using another tool to do as an editor, you're actually seeing, you're literally replicating what's showing up as these examples that you have on the screen currently as those themes. So
yeah,
maybe you can clarify why that is, and
okay.
how do you best deal with that in Classic Editor when you're trying to see how things are looking as well,
So if I can, David, not to put you off, but I want to hold that off until we actually go in and actually edit a page. And then what I'll do is I'll show you, here's what the classic editor looks like. Here's what Gutenberg, which is the new visual editor, looks like. And then I'll actually activate one of these professional themes and show you how you do it there as well. Okay.
Great.
Anybody else have any other questions regarding themes and things? So one of the things I do want to point out is that there are literally thousands of themes. You see where it says themes, add new? There are literally thousands of themes that are available to you through WordPress. And through WordPress, 99% of them work well right out of the box. Some of them offer you the upsell where you can buy the pro version, but many of these, as you see, many of these are all free. So if I like this one, for instance, I can just press install.
So Emily Lou was asking, how can I install that theme from my WordPress website?
Okay, which theme do you mean?
I believe she mentioned the one you installed. Was it the paid one or the free one?
Well, the one you were showing, I thought you said it's a pay thing. So can we get that too, or is it free to download?
Yeah, well, it's actually a paid theme. It's about $50. However, I can give you a copy of it and you can use it you won't be able to get updates to it, but you can use that theme and you can practice with how to do it. If you like the theme, I
Okay.
think there's a link inside the theme that says go here and you can actually buy it.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can give me a download file and I can install from.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And
Thank
if you
you.
would jot down my my email address that's in the
Yep.
let's see, let me
I'll
make
shoot you an email. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to see where it's to. I'm not seeing the chat. That's why.
No worries. Your email is in the chat, and people are asking questions there. That's what I'm reading to you out loud.
Oh, okay, good. All
I
right.
would
Thank you.
personally not recommend you to install something like partially free or free through Tom personally, because then you will depend on updates. So either you
Yes.
use free themes or you buy the theme set, the one you need, you want.
I would agree. Now, from a security standpoint, I'm also a certified ethical hacker. So, from a security standpoint,
Don't
I
trust
would.
you. Don't trust you.
I would not recommend at all that you ever install a free theme that doesn't come from this WordPress repository. The reason I say that is WordPress, though they're not a theme factory, if you will, they do go through all of these themes to ensure that there's no phoning home type code, meaning that when you enter stuff in here, it automatically sends a copy somewhere else, or it automatically injects advertisements or other things that you otherwise wouldn't know about. WordPress does take care of all of that for you, both for plugins and for themes. So if you do opt for the free method of themes and plugins, I seriously request that you definitely go through this repository to do it. Okay.
We have one more question in the chat.
Okay.
Media, what are the maximum or average sizes for images or videos that one should not exceed for WordPress?
Great. So when you add new media, if you see my screen right now, notice right here that it says maximum upload file size is 128 megabytes. That can be changed. Some of your hosting companies will allow you to upload larger things. When you, that's the basic size of the file. So let's say that you have a video that you want to upload and your limit is 128, you can connect, and let's say your video is 200 megabytes. You can reach out to your hosting provider and ask, how do I upload a 200 meg? How can I change that number? Now, I think your question may have been, okay, here I have this hot dog picture. And now if you see this hot dog picture that I originally uploaded is 300 by 200 pixels as opposed to 2500. And you see that the size is now gone from 600 kilobytes, more than half of megabyte, to just 13 kilobytes. So what I would say to you is, if you are, somebody needs to mute their mic for me, please. Somebody's playing some music in the background there.
Yeah, no.
There we go. Okay, because if I had the urge to get up and dance, and you don't want to see that. So, so anyway, if I am going to use this picture as, let's say, just a thumbnail to introduce something, or just a little advertisement kind of thing, I would not make it much bigger than the 300 by 200. But if I plan to use this hot dog picture as the entire background of a website, then you do want to go with probably at least a 1200 by 1000 type or size picture. But think about the way that you want to use the picture and whether or not you need a very large picture. Now, in the background, even though this picture was uploaded and it was 2500 pixels, WordPress itself is going to create smaller versions of it and thumbnail size versions of it as well. And I'll show you that a little later in the settings. But if you know that this picture is never going to be much bigger than, say, a postcard, then there's no reason for it to be more than 800 by 600 or anything like that. But if you know that it's a very fine quality that you don't want to compromise on it, then you upload a larger one. Okay. Does that answer your question, whoever that was?
It was
Yes.
Lori.
Lori, did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Okay. So let's head back to appearance. So you saw that I just installed or downloaded this new theme, and I can just go ahead and press activate. I just downloaded it and I can activate it. And now let's look and see what it has done to my front page. So you see it's also completely different than what I just had there, right? Same sort of basic layout, but many things have changed. Okay. So many of those themes are going to provide styling and probably some functionality as well. Okay. All right. So now one of the other things that I want to show you here is in my theme, I can customize this theme. This is a WordPress standard now that all of the themes have to provide this. So for instance, here is my site identity. So I can come here and type team Tom is learning. Okay. And then you see how it changes up here. And a number of these elements up here where you see a pencil mark, I can actually change what is there. So this is just another WordPress site. I can just say have fun. And now I come back. Here are my colors. I want my background color. I don't really like that tan, so I'm going to go with something a little more bold. There we go. And
Nice.
if I look over here again, you see it's still the same old color. I have to actually publish it. Then when I refresh, bada bing, there it goes. It's like magic. And you see, you don't need to know any programming, something called HTML or CSS. There are the colors. Here is the header and footer color background. I can change that. I'll just make that green so you can, so that it's obvious. Okay. But I can come around here and just drag this to whatever it is. Oh, there we go. And then I just publish that. And now my web page is going to look just like that. That's pretty easy. Very easy to do. So this customizer has made things very much more easy than they have been in the past. I don't want to go through too many of these things because we haven't covered many of them, but we'll go over them in just a minute. But just know that you can customize just by pressing here. You can customize what your website looks like, and you see because I saved it, those colors and the layout is still in place. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is we'll cover a couple of these things in just a minute under appearance, but I want to pop over to plugins. So I click on plugins, and what plugins do is they add additional functionality. So for instance, there is a plugin called WooCommerce, W-O-O Commerce, all one word. And what WooCommerce does is that it actually allows you to connect your website to PayPal or Stripe, which is a payment organization. You probably have heard of PayPal. And it provides all of the functionality you need to actually run an online store and have people pay you through PayPal. And I will tell you that if one of you right now said to me, hey, Tom, I have a website, it's already up and running, and I just want to add the ability to sell. If you already have a PayPal account, let's see, it is well, it's 436 here, so it's 636 there. If you were to tell me that right now, I will tell you that by 7 o'clock, I could have you up and running and selling things on the web. That's how quickly it goes. And it's just a matter of installing plugins. If you want to add a plugin, press add new, and then let's do a search. Let's say that you want a plugin that allows people to join your website as a member. So let's do something with a membership, right? So let's try membership. So here are all of these plugins in which they're free. There's probably a pro version that adds additional functionality, but you see all of these provide some sort of functionality about membership. One of the things that you want to look for, as I mentioned to you before, if you install plugins or if you install themes, go here first and see if you can find what you need free through WordPress, the plugin repository, and judge how good it is by the number of installs. If I make my screen bigger, does that zoom in for you as well? Is my screen zooming for you?
It's remained the same,
Okay, it
but
remains
it's
the same.
good.
So if you look here, for instance, over 200,000 websites have installed this plugin. I'd say that's probably a pretty good plugin. Over here, you have 100,000. There's 50,000. You can go all the way down here. Look at this one here. This is the one that I talked to you about, WooCommerce, which allows you to sell things online. It's free, and look at that. It has 5 million active installations. There are more than 5 million websites using WooCommerce. That's probably an okay plugin to use. But if you find one, I don't know, we'll come down here. If you like this one here, it says 900 active users. There's 1,000. It's not quite as popular. Let's pop down here to the last page of this. So you see, look, plugin name is login register, and there are 10 installations, and it was last updated 9 years ago. Something you probably don't really want to bother with. It hasn't been updated in 9 years, and there's only 10 people who have installed it, and it's probably the brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles of the guy who wrote it, or gal. So it's probably not a good one. But you see here, these are the things that you want to look for. Last updated, i.e. how old is the code? Does it stay up to date? You notice it says compatible with your version of WordPress. So it knows that I'm running WordPress 5.7, and it checks to see, is it compatible with my current version? And then that's the number of installations. So those are the 3 key pieces that you want to look for when you add plugins. Okay. So that's to do a search. You can do, here are the featured ones. Chances are WooCommerce is going to show up here somewhere, or I guess not, or probably under popular. There's WooCommerce, but you can see some of these. Contact Form 7, Yulia, you had mentioned somebody asked about contact forms. This is probably a popular one, 5 million installs. So these are some things that you can look at without even having to search. There's recommended and favorites, that type of thing. You could also download a plugin, for instance, the company Themify, from whom those themes come from. They have a lot of plugins as well. So if I pop over there to their website, themify.me, if you don't mind, Yulia, would you mind putting that in the chat, themify.me website?
Sure, but let's address why plugins are needed.
Yeah.
What
So,
use cases are?
yep. So So for instance, let's take a look at these plugins here and you'll see why you would need them. So if, for instance, you needed to have a pricing table show up on your website, instead of you building it by yourself, you can add a plugin. If you wanted to sell stuff online, to get the functionality to do that, you would use WooCommerce. Some of the other items that are on here, if you want to put a map on your website, here's a plugin. If you wanted to have a typewriter functionality that would cause the words to actually look like they're typed on the screen as you go along. What plugins do for you typically is to give you functionality, not necessarily style and color, but functionality. Okay. Whereas a theme, on the other hand, if we look over here at this theme, these themes not only provide some functionality, but they also add color and style to the layout of your website. Okay, more or less the look and feel. Themes are more about the look and feel. Plugins are more about the actions or the things, the functionality that you can add to your website. Okay.
Example, sign in, subscribe, or spam filtering.
Yep.
Those are usually served as a plugin with WordPress, and on all other content management systems, they have different names, usually something like functions
Correct. Correct.
or modules.
So for instance, Yulia had mentioned to me that somebody had reached out to her about how would they add a contact form to their website. So on here, I can just type in contact form within this add plugins, and it's going to find all of those plugins that actually provide that functionality to me. Okay. So, so that's what a plugin will do for you. Okay. Everybody tracking now? So this is how I would add a plugin. If I want to see what plugins I have installed, I just press the installed plugins. And notice I actually have a number of them installed on all of these websites from Themify. Here's an announcement bar. So if I want to make an announcement on my website to say, hey, subscribe, or hey, we're having a sale, or something to that effect, I can use this plugin. Same thing with the Builder typewriter, where the words come on the screen one letter at a time. There's a number of things that you can use. I'm actually going to demonstrate this Faker Press shortly, which actually, when you're trying to show somebody how to do a website and you're talking about categories and tags and posts, you don't have any content in a new site. This Faker Press actually allows me to create a bunch of content with pre-made pages and posts so that I can demonstrate it. And we'll use that in just a little bit. Okay.
你在煮什么？
I'm sorry.
方维
Oh, okay. All right. So those are plugins. Okay. And we're gonna come back to this in just a few minutes when I get to pages. Okay. So here's one of the more important things for your website is under users. Do I have any questions about plugins?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at users. Now, what does it mean by user? A user is not somebody who comes to your website to see what you have to sell or see what's on your pages or to read your blog or stories. That's not a user, that's a visitor. A user is somebody who will actually come to your website. For instance, if I go to team1 of hudsonvalley.com, this is one of the teams here. So you see there's no bar at the top or anything. So I'm just a visitor. I'm just
Is it my connectivity issue? Or okay, you were frozen.
I'm sorry.
Connectivity issues? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Me?
Worries. No worries. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I'm on your website, I'm just a visitor. I'm not a user. I'm just a visitor. If you give me credentials, meaning a user ID and password to actually log into your site. So if I do come to your site and I can type in login at the end of your URL name, now I can actually log in if you give me credentials. These credentials are actually a user that you've created. So in this case, you see that I have a user called td-admin. If I edit that, there are a bunch of things on here you can go through there, but the most important pieces are the username and any identifying information about the user. You can't join, you can't become a user without providing a username and a password. I'm sorry, an email address. The email addresses that are used by users have to be unique, right? So you can't create 6 users and everybody uses nfl.instructor@Hudson Valley WordPress. It would have to be, Tom at Hudson Valley, Bill at Hudson Valley, Jay at Hudson Valley, Lori at Hudson Valley. Everybody has to have a unique email address on this site. Okay. So the username, some basic information, and their email address are important. The other important piece down here, I'm sorry, I may have skipped past it. Where are we? Oh, it's probably because I'm the admin right now. I'll look at it in just a second. So if somebody calls you and says, hey, I've lost my password, I can't get in, you can't tell them what your password is. You can't look in here and say, okay, here's what your password is. You would actually have to press this set new password. If you wanted a suggested password, if you see here, this is a very strong password that WordPress already gives to you. You can just email that to them or tell it to them on the phone, or I can type in what our default password is for these websites, which is capital I like to eat at Taco Bell, ! So I can now just press set new password. Oops, I'm sorry. I have to hit return. I like to, I type whatever it is that I want and then hit enter, and it's going to change the password. I don't want to do that right now because otherwise it's going to kick me off. But that's how you would do it. Okay, so let's add a new user. I just press add new here on this left side, and I'm going to just type in test user. Okay, I'm going to give it an email address of test@HudsonValleyWP.com. Keep in mind that I could just as well put test@bogus.com. It doesn't check the email address to ensure that it's real. It just needs one, that's all. And then I can put my name. Oh, Tom, I meant to put my name, not my weight. And then this is the important piece when you create a user. If you see this part here down where it says role, there is a subscriber, contributor, author, editor, and an administrator. These are the default user roles within a website. In general terms, a subscriber of the website can log in and have an account, but they can't create new things, they can't add posts, they can't edit posts, things of that nature. Whereas if you come up here to editor, they can probably edit posts, they might be able to change some colors, things of that nature, but it's still limited. The administrator, though, the administrator will give you godlike power over everything on your website. Now, there are a number of organizations that if you reach out to them and say, hey, my theme is not working, I downloaded your plugin, it's not working, they will say, okay, give me your credentials to your back end here and I can help you. I beg of you, don't ever give them your credentials to your website. Even if they say, I need your credentials because I have to be an administrator on the site. Do not, under any circumstances, give them your credentials. You go right here and you choose add new, just type in, just like this, test user, test bogus, whatever it is you need to put in there, and then you can make that role an administrator. And then when I add new user, you see I now have a test user. You send them those credentials and say, hey, here's your user ID and password. Let them do their thing. And then when they say, oh, okay, everything's fixed, we're good to go. Guess what I can do now? I come right over here and I press delete and I confirm that deletion. And now they don't have access to your website at all. However, if I had given them my admin rights, my admin account and password, I either have to delete that account or I have to change that password so that they can no longer get into it. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? Go ahead.
I do. I mean, couldn't it be potentially problematic to have two users that are listed as administrators on the same account simultaneously?
Problematic? Not really, because even though they're both administrators, they if the two of the users are logged in at the same time and they try to edit the same thing, they'll get a warning that somebody else has it open already and they can't actually edit it at the same time. So you're not going to walk all over each other.
Use case for it, it's your client and you as a web developer, or vice versa. You are the client and you have the web developer working on your website.
Correct. So for instance, you're correct, Yulia. When I have a client, I will create an admin account as an administrator, and I will give it the name that I want. I won't normally include the word admin in there, and I'll make myself an administrator. Then when I have the site built and I'm ready to allow the client to see the back end, because clients can get back in there and say, oh, hey, what does this do? And, you know, now your work is gone, right? That can be problematic. So I always create an account for myself and make it admin. Then when the client is ready to see it and use it, then I provide them an account for them to log on. Once I have handed the website over to the user or to the client, I will tell them, listen, please maintain my credentials for the next 30 days in case you have to lock yourself out or something goes wrong. I still have access. But then after that, just go ahead and delete my account so that I don't have access. That's all. That's a good point, David, of having, you can have too many cooks in the kitchen. Same thing with WordPress.
That's what I was saying, because I would think, you know, if you would at least, like in the case where, you know, the concern about them deleting, you know, content that you had been working on and created over however period of time, you would want to give them at least, you know, an editor level.
Correct.
You know, so.
Right. So
anyway.
the editor level, again, you can do some reading on it, but like the editor level allows you to edit things, but perhaps it doesn't allow you to create any users. It doesn't allow you to delete users, things of that nature. So you want to give the least amount of privilege as possible for them to do what they need to do. Louis, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to ask, like, if there is like an editor and makes a change and something goes wrong, is there anything like an undo button to you know, to go back to the previous?
Absolutely. So there is a setting by default. WordPress will actually keep up, I think the default is 10 revisions of a post or a page that you create. So as long as they don't screw it up 10 times in a row, you can come back to what was good at the time before they screwed it up. And you'll probably see that once I get into creating a post here shortly.
All right, thank you.
Great question. And I'm sorry, is it Louis or Luis? Sorry.
Louis, that's fine.
Luis. Okay,
Louis, yeah.
great. And Emily, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So quick question about the user management part.
Yes.
Can you restrict certain user for only, like say a certain area of the site or a certain module or extension?
To a certain module or extension, I don't believe so, right? So the permission would be that they can either install or delete, say, plugins and modules.
Okay.
But there are plugins that control users that would give you that fine granularity of users. So for instance, instead of coming up here on the users panel and you see that it says the role that you want to give them, did I go back into my own? Let's see. I'm going to add new. Under this role, you can install a plugin, and instead of seeing this role here, you will actually see a whole bunch of checkboxes, and checkboxes such as can create new posts, can delete posts, can edit, perhaps
menus. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's basically a checklist. If there's something you're thinking about that can be done on WordPress, I assure you somebody else has probably come up first and have some sort of idea of how to do it. I'll show you an example of that in just a minute, because I was about to build one myself and then I looked it up and found one. So but yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great question. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about with users. Typically, if you run a website that you just have a blog or you just have some things on it that you want people to come and see, you might have 2, maybe 3 users at most. One will be you, one will be the guy or gal that is your web developer if you have issues. But other than that, for the most part, you really, your number of users should be probably in the single digits. Okay. All right. So let's head down here to settings. So when you first set up a website or a WordPress site, there are a few general settings that it's going to ask you, like what is your site title, what's your tagline, what's the address for your website, right? And this will depend on what domain you have or what site you have. When you press on a menu item, right? So if I go to here, if you take a peek, can you see the status line on the very bottom of my screen? Do you see it pop up on the very lower left? When I hover over that link, it says https://team-17.hudsonvalleywp.com/hello world. And hello world is the name of the page. So when you have links and menu items, the URL that you have in this box is actually going to be the prefix for what your menus are. Okay, so this page name is hello world, but when I click on it, it's actually going to prepend it with, or prefix it with, the actual website that I've entered here. Okay, this should match whatever your domain or host name is. Okay, and then there's your administrator address. If something goes wrong, if you type something wrong and your site breaks, it will send a love note to that admin email address to let you know that something's wrong. I say love note, but trust me, you probably won't get an admin email unless something is wrong. It doesn't say, hey, how are you, Tom? It's Tuesday. I thought just say hello. No, it'll usually be, your website just died. So you might want to check it. Okay. So this also gives you
about that before you go next. to the next step.
absolutely.
The,
Go right
the
ahead.
administration email address, now that, just based off of that, the one that you have there.
Yep.
That's an external email that would get sent to an inbox that you would be notified, or do you actually have to be in the dashboard to actually check for those?
No. So for instance, as an example, let's say that I install a plugin and the plugin I didn't pay attention and the plugin was for a very early version of WordPress and it doesn't match the one that I actually have. So some of the code might be broken. If I load my page and I get this white page that literally says nothing on it, that's an error, and WordPress will then send a love note to this admin email address saying there's an issue on your website, and that will be sent via email. So yes, you don't have to be logged in to do this. I run a number of websites for the Army, and I have so many checks and balances in place. That's why this number up here is 91,000 unread emails, because I get 2 or 3 emails every hour on the hour saying your website is up and running and mail is functional. Because I just don't trust a website that I don't want to have to log into all of these websites just to see if they're working. I want a love note that says, hey, your current server is running at 90% capacity. You might want to check it. Yeah, better safe than sorry. That's really why I have 91,000 unread emails, because I probably get about 14 emails per hour on the hour, just as heads up. Okay, so there's a bunch of other things in here that you can adjust. The most important parts are right there, that you want to make sure that you have those accurate. That's all. Okay. If I look into the writing piece, when you create a post, bunch of stuff here. I think that in the probably 100 websites that I've ever built, I don't think that I have ever changed anything on this page. So I wouldn't bother with it. When you click on reading, so here is an interesting spot. You see where it says your home page displays and it says your latest posts. So if I go to the front page of this website that we're currently on, you notice that it automatically brought this very first post up. This is a post called Hello World. If I click on it, it takes me to the Hello World post. You see it? There's just the post right there. If I go back to the front page by clicking over here where it says Team Tom is Learning, if I click it, it kind of looks like the exact same thing, because it's showing my latest posts on this page. And this reading, because it says that your homepage displays your latest posts, that's why I'm seeing that. If I change it to what's called a static page, static meaning it's not changing, there's nothing dynamic about it, it's static, I can say that I want my home page. In this case, let's go to sample page. So now I'm going to save that change. And here's what my page looked like before with the Hello World post on it. If I refresh this page, notice now sample page is now my front page. It's no longer my posts. I can still get to the post because it's on my menu up here, but now it is my sample page. So if I know that my front page is never really going to change. It's going to be some sort of introductory text, and maybe I'll change a picture from time to time. You want to set your home page display to a static page, and under here just indicate which page that you want it to be. Doggy is typically a test word that I use all the time. You'll either see me use doggy or chili dog. I don't know why, but I'm not even really a big fan of chili dogs, but it just comes to mind all the time. I will demonstrate this again in just a minute when I actually create some posts, and you'll see it's hard to really appreciate what it means to see a page as opposed to just seeing a post on there, but you'll see that in a minute. Same thing here. How many posts do you want to see on that page when it comes up? And this one here, this syndication feeds, I don't ever use. You probably never will either. So I would just leave that the way that it is. Okay. Let me set this back to latest posts and refresh this page. So now you see that here's the latest post. Okay. Here is the edit button for that post because I'm logged in. I just want to put in a bunch of text in here. I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to put a whole bunch of stuff in here. Okay. And I'm going to update it. And then I am just going to go back to the home page. So now you see how long that post is now, right? When I go to this reading page here, it says, for each post in the feed, include full text or summary. So a summary, think of the word summary as synonymous with the word excerpt. I don't know why they use summary here, but in WordPress, they actually use the word excerpt. So you see, this is basically showing the entire text of this post. If I set this to summary, it's going to truncate that post to perhaps the first 200 characters or first 50 words or whatever the default is. If I now press Save Changes and I refresh this page, if I refresh that page, it is apparently I don't have enough in there in order for it to be summarized. So we'll see this in a minute when I install some fake data, but this is basically going to tell you how many characters you want to show when it's showing. On the development side, whenever I'm developing a website, I want to discourage a search engine from looking at this site because it's just a bunch of bogus stuff. I don't need WordPress knowing that up here. I don't need them knowing that I have a page named Doggy. Not important. Once you finish your website and you decide, yep, I'm ready to go, you then definitely want to uncheck that so that Google, Bing, and Yahoo, all of them then can actually read all of your content and index it for you. This is what's called search engine optimization. This allows the search engine to read your stuff. Now I say it allows them to. This says discourage search engines. It doesn't say stop. It doesn't say prevent. It's merely asking the search engine, please don't take a look at these pages. I'm not interested in having them indexed. But Google can ignore it if it wants to. Yahoo can ignore it if it wants to. So just be cognizant of that. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. So under discussion, there are a bunch of things here. I'm not going to go through them all, but it's things about allowing link notifications, allow people to submit comments on new posts, things of that nature. You can decide for yourself how you want to do this, but the one thing that you want to make sure that is not checked here is or that you do want to have checked here. See this where it says users must be registered and logged in to comment. I Always check that, because if you don't check that and you allow commenting on your pages or posts, John Q. Public can comment on your page or your post. And believe me, they will. There are bots out there that will look for any page that has a comment box, and it will put stuff like, hey, buy Cialis, only $6 a pill, or buy watches, or buy this, or do that, or porn sites, all kinds of stuff. If you don't check this box where it says users must be registered, then you're allowing God and everybody to put a comment on your page, many of which will not be nice. Okay, so that's the only reason I show you this, is that you definitely want to make sure that that is there. Okay. All right. I mentioned under media that when you upload a picture, let's say for argument's sake, you upload a picture that's 5,000 by 5,000. It's a huge picture. When you upload it, WordPress is automatically going to create a picture of these dimensions as well. So it's going to take your 5,000 by 5,000 and make a 150 pixels. This is in pixels. It's going to create a thumbnail size, a medium size, and a large size automatically for you. The original picture will still be available to you, but when you create a page and you say, hey, I want to insert this picture, you can just click and say, oh, yeah, I just want the medium size, and it will automatically give you just the 300 by 300 size of that picture. Okay. This isn't foolproof. It isn't, it doesn't mean that, you know, there can be mistakes and other things, but just know that if you want to, you can do that. Okay. This part here about crop thumbnail to exact dimensions, normally thumbnails are proportional. So for instance, let's say that you have a landscape picture that goes this way. If you say that the thumbnail is going to be 150 by 150, it's going to crop that into a square. But is it going to crop the appropriate picture or part of the picture that you want? So for the most part, I don't mess with these. I just make sure that the picture that I upload is the size that I want, relatively speaking, and then I use it that way. Okay.
I have a
All right.
question.
Yes.
About the sizing where we are right now.
Yes.
If we were to, because I know, like, for example, like I use like if you have a site editor that you downloaded as a plugin inside of WordPress, like for example, Elementor,
Right.
is an example of that. Sometimes certain things, certain parameters that you're trying to set, like in the case of images, there might be some kind of issue as far as how it actually renders on the page. And a lot of times what I end up doing to fix the problem is to go into the dashboard, because of the fact that whatever the dashboard set is not lining up with whatever program you are using to build the site, right? So I guess my question is would this be, is it a fail-safe way to, you know, set the standard of whatever your image sizes are by going in on the back end here in the dashboard first, to kind of counteract having to do the double work of trying to troubleshoot why it works here and not elsewhere?
So here's the thing to it. When these sizes are set, this is kind of the default, right?
Yep.
If you had no plugins installed, you had no other functionality installed, these are the sizes that'll be created automatically for you. Okay. But when you install a plugin, let's say Elementor, and Elementor can actually override these settings in their plugin so that these settings are never actually even used. So plugins can have something called a precedence. So let's say that these thumbnail sizes are at precedence number 1. And as you go higher, the higher number, the higher precedence you have. But I can write a plugin and set the precedence to set these sizes. My plugin set the precedence at 10. So this gets read first and say, oh, the biggest I can go is 1024. But then it's going to read my plugin, which has a higher precedence, and it's going to override that. And I say my largest size is 2048. And there's literally no way for you as the user to change that unless you know how to manipulate the plugin. So it's kind of a play nice kind of atmosphere, but that's the best shot. That's why I say your best bet for me is if you know that you're going to look for a picture that's about 150 by 150, then perhaps upload something slightly bigger than that or exactly that, and then you don't have to worry about it. Okay. All right. Last thing I'm going to check here on is permalinks. So a permalink, if we look at this page that I'm on right now, this is my front page. You notice that there's nothing at the back end of the .com. This is my front page. But if I press sample page, notice that I now have the name of the page on the back here. Do you see it right there? That is called the slug. You'll see that all over in the back end. It's the slug, S-L-U-G. But you notice that it actually comes up with the page name, right? The page is exactly that. If I change my permalinks, notice that right now I have this setting set to be the post name, but I could also have it be month and name. So if I change this permalink to month and name and I press save changes, if I come to here and I just refresh this page, it keeps that same page. But if I now go to, let's see, I did save that, right? Thought I did. Let me go to plain, save changes. Okay, go back here. Okay, so now when I hit sample page, notice it now doesn't say sample page, it says page ID equals 2. Really, do you want people to use that, right? So you say, oh man, I saw this really nice looking dog. Here's the URL and it's .com/page equals ID equals .1 - no, not really. If I wanted it to be day and name, I can then save those changes. I can refresh the page. And now if I pull up here, I don't know why the date and name is not, oh, there it is. It's because this is a page, this is a blog post, sorry. So now you see with the blog post, I now have the year, the month, and the day that it was actually created before I actually see the blog name. Typically, I will always use this post name because it makes more sense. It's more human readable, if you will, to use that than to use numbers. So now if I hit hello world, you'll see that it says hello world. Okay, make sense? Okay, so now what I want to do I have any questions to this point? No? Okay, so I think the advertisement for this class actually went through 7:30, but we had actually should have been through 8 o'clock, I think. But so I have about 10 minutes left. What I want to do is I'm here till 8, but what I want to do fairly quickly here is I want to go to the posts and show you how to actually create a page. I want to show you how to create a page. Okay.
And let's address Gutenberg, not Gutenberg.
Yep. So so let's see. When I choose to page and I choose add new. Here is what my screen looks like. And what this is, I have the classic editor that David spoke about earlier. I have that turned off right now because you have to actually install a plugin in order to use what's called the classic editor. But I'm going to lead in with this, which is actually called Gutenberg. If you recall Gutenberg Press, this is basically what it's named after. So as you can see, it says, I want to add a title. So I just start to type. This is a test page. Okay. And now it says, start writing or type or type or to choose a block. Well, if I just start typing here, I really enjoy learning about WordPress. Okay. And now if I say, okay, well, in here, in this block, this is a paragraph block, and I can make different changes to it. I can, when I highlight it, I can make it bold. I can make it a link. So if I wanted this to go to www.cnn.com, I just hit enter. And now that will link to CNN. And those are the words that I want to use. If these aren't the words I want to use, I can change it to whatever it is that I want, change the text. I can highlight that text or that block, and I can go to text or color changes. So I want the text to be white. I want the background to be kind of pinkish, right? So you see that both of them have changed, and I can change those colors again to whatever it is that I want. See how I can change that right from here. All I need to do is to make sure that I'm inside this block. Okay, so I can change this to a very dark color for the text, and I'll go with purple here. Okay, or I can choose a custom color, and I can drag that color to wherever I want. So now I want black, basically black. And that's how I would adjust whatever is in that block. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, okay, what are blocks? What are these things? So as I type in here, this is a paragraph block, but you'll see this plus sign right here, and it says add block. If I click on that, it gives me a whole list of things that I can actually use. So what do you typically see on the top of a web page? You'll typically see maybe a picture and some text side by side that says, hey, here's who we are, and enjoy or learn more. There's a button. So I can find a block over here. Look, here's a block called media and text. And you see in a little pop-up there, you see the bird and some text next to it. So that's kind of neat. I'm going to click and hold that, and you see the blue line. The blue line is the insertion point. If I want it to be down here towards the bottom, yep, I must have unclicked it. If I want it towards the bottom, it's going to appear there. Now, I thought, well, no, I don't want it at the bottom. So I'm just going to grab these 4 little or 6 little dots here that says drag. So now I can pick it up and I can move it again. Okay. So now it says media area. Okay, I'm going to add a picture from my media library. I'm just going to pick my favorite hot dogs there. Say select. And now here's the content. I love chili dogs. Let's have one. Okay, so now I have a picture on this side. I have text on this side, and I can manipulate this text on this side. You see there's 2 different blocks there. I can change the text color to a dark, and I'll change the background color to white. If I publish this page, which means that I actually want to save the page, I have a couple of options here. Visibility, do I want it visible to everybody? Do I want it to be private, or do I want to password protect it? Public means la-di-da-di, everybody sees it. If you choose it to private, as you see, if a person is logged in and they're a site admin or an editor, then they will be able to see the page. If it's password protected, I click that and I just type in a password here. And now if somebody goes to that page, they have to type in that password. In this case, I'm just going to make it public because it's a page on my site, and I'm going to publish. Okay, so it says that it's now live and I want to view the page. So boom, there's the test page. And you see, this is how it was all laid out. It's not exactly how I want it to look, so I'm just going to press edit page here. I'm going to open it in a separate window or separate tab. And now I can come back in here and edit it however I want. Now that you see, there's the title, there's this block kind of thing with these words in it, and here's a couple of other blocks. So if I grab this block here, you see there are some options here. Show the media on the left or show the media on the right. So I just click the button and it swaps the picture and the text for me. How do I want the vertical alignment? Do I want it to be at the top or at the bottom or at the middle? So I'm going to align at the bottom. Did you see that move? Actually, let me get rid of this box right here. And I'm going to, why doesn't it allow me to continue to type in there? Let's have some, okay. So now there's my box. I can highlight this and choose bold. And how do I want that aligned? Right now, you see that the text is aligned to the left. What if I want it aligned to the right? Or what if I want it aligned in the center, right? I can do all of these things by manipulating this menu item right here. If I want to make this italics, I can just click right there. There are other options here. I can make it strike through. I can change the text color, and I can also do a number of other things. If you're a nerd like me and you don't want to do this, click and paste and things, you can actually go to edit as HTML, and then you can write the code yourself if you want to get nerdy about it. Okay, there's edit visually. Okay, so this is the entire box that I have on here. On the right hand side, you see that I have this box selected. So now look at the color settings here. I can change the color for that entire box. There's my background. And I notice I changed the color of the text here, but it doesn't appear to be changing. And that's because I actually highlighted this and I had changed the text color in here. Where did I change that text color? One of these allowed me, there it is. There's the text color that I had changed inside there. I can change it there, or I can change it over here. Okay, so here's the box again. And I have other boxes down here. I can change those as well. While I'm in the box, I can change those colors of what my background color is going to be for the box. There's a number of different choices. It depends on what type of box you're in. Notice that here, when I choose this media and text block, I have this opportunity to set different colors. I can crop the image so that it fits the entire area, the entire column. I can actually move the hot dog picture over if I want to. So notice, oops, let's go with 50. Notice that if I drag this, notice how the picture is moving up or down depending on which way I want how I want the picture to be centered. That's pretty cool, right? So there's a bunch of different things that you can do there, okay? There are a number of things that you can add as well. So let's say that in this box, I also want to add a picture or a button. I can press the plus sign and let me find the button. I don't know where it is in the menu, so I'm just going to search for it. There's a button, and I'm just going to grab it right into this same block. See, I can put it above it or below it. I'm just going to put it right there. And now I can just indicate the text that I want. Click to see more, right? And then here are all of my options on the other side. If I want a border radius, see how the box is going from square to round to look more like a button? I can set that. I can set how wide I want it to be. I only want it to be 75% of this box, or I want it to be 100% of that box. When I have the link, do I want the link to open in the same page that I am right now or open in a separate tab? Okay. When I edit this, you see there's the link. Where do I want that link to go? And I want it to go to, let's try cnn.com again. Or notice it actually starts to bring up the pages that I've created within this website. So I could just click there, or I'm just going to click this. I'm going to press update. And now I'm going to review my page. There's my link. And there it takes me to cnn.com. Now notice it opened it in the same page as I am right now, but I can come back here and I can say that the link should open in a new tab. Notice there, and I press update. I refresh the page. And now if I click this, you see it now opened in its own tab as opposed to covering up the page that I'm currently on. Okay. A number of these block items are things that people will use every day. I'm just going to get rid of these just to remove them. But I can add, if you press that little plus sign that appears down there, I can add all types of things down there. If I wanted to see all of the things that I can add, here is a gallery. I'm just going to add a gallery of pictures. Whoops, gallery down to here. And you'll notice on the gallery, it says, okay, here's the media library. It's going to show me all of the pictures I have in the library. And let's say that I want this picture and that picture. And I just say, create a new gallery. And then I insert that gallery. Now, if I update the page and I refresh over here, notice that there is now a gallery of pictures there. Now, keep in mind, this kind of makes me weep a little bit that I'm able to do all of this. And as a programmer or web developer, I haven't written a piece of code yet. I have done nothing that a computer science or developer or programmer would need to know in order to make this happen. So you can see the power that Gutenberg, this editor, is giving you in order to develop this page. Okay. So if I had more pictures in here, I could show you many more things. I want to show you one example of a plugin real quick. Sorry, we're getting short here. Let me explain that everything that I have developed here on this page, the way that you edit this page is the exact same way that you would edit a post. There's quite literally no difference at all between editing a page and editing a post. The difference that you get with a post, if I come over here to a post and I say add new, you will see it's basically the exact same setup. This is my first post, right? But notice on the right-hand side, before I even check this block part to get all of those settings, when I look at the post itself, notice that now I have all of these things that I can add here. Look, here are some categories that I've previously created. So if this post is about food, I can click that category. But it could also be about health because it's eating healthy. I could also tag this, like this could be a post about chili dogs, right? And I can add that tag in there if I want to. I can add a featured image. So there's my featured image for my hot dogs, right? You can insert the excerpt here. I might have 500 characters of text in here, but I only want the excerpt to say, I love to eat chili dogs, okay? So you can put that in here. For discussion, do I want to allow comments? Yes or no? If I say yes, then it's going to show a comment box, and I'm going to publish this, and I will show you what it actually does. So I'm going to open a link in the new tab. And there's my first post, and there's my picture based on that featured image that I chose. You see there are no comments on there. And down here it says leave a reply. So I'm currently logged in, so I can actually say this is great, and I post a comment. So there it is. It shows up as soon as I press go. If I go to this post, let me come back to it. I don't want that comment part. If I go to this post in a, I'm not gonna be able to show it to you because I didn't share my full screen. I just changed this. But if I went to a browser that I was not logged into, this down here would say, you can only reply if you're logged in, because you remember I wrote and said, or I changed it and said only registered people can log in. Okay, so that's really the difference. This idea of the posts, close that. The idea between posts and pages is that a post you can categorize and pages you can't categorize. Okay, so a page could be like a container. Like if you had a page about food, that page could have just food items. So for instance, if I go back to the page that we just created a minute ago, this test page, one of the blocks down here is actually, I'll show you the whole list. One of them is actually latest posts. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to choose this block called latest posts. And then there is my first post and there's hello world. Well, you remember this is my first post that was actually categorized as health. So if I click on here, I can actually look at the options here, and look, I want it to show the date, and notice that it's changing over here as I click. Whoops. As I click, you'll see different things showing up. There's the author's name is now showing up. Remove the date. I can display the featured image. You see now the image is there. Okay, what size do I want that image? You remember we talked about the media sizes. So there's thumbnail, medium, and large. If I choose medium, it's going to give me that 300 by 300, right? And there's the setting that I can make. Do I want it to be to the left of the text? Do I want it to be the right of the text, or do I want it centered over the text? I'm going to go with the text and then the picture on the side. Now, here's where the important is. See this where it says categories? If I click in here and I say food, you see that food comes up. So now this latest post, you notice the hello world one went away because it's not categorized as a post or as food. So if I now update this and I go back to that page, let me see here, forgot what the URL was for it. Oh, did I update? Yep. And where is the, yeah, I was trying to remember what the slug is here. Oops, didn't want that. Good Lord. What was the page name? This is a test page. There we go. So now you see there's what I had before. And now you see that there is the post that was marked as food. If I come back over here and go to my posts, I do want to leave. I come back and I edit hello world and I add the category food and update it. Now, if I refresh this page, notice that hello world now shows up. So think of a page as a container that can show other content, meaning hello world. So this title here could be, here are my blog posts about food. And then I can show them all down here. Okay, but they are all basically edited all the same way, regardless of whether they're a page or a post. Okay, do I have any? Excuse me. Do I have any questions about that? Because I've already gone past the 7:30 point. Do I have any questions at this point?
There was a question about choosing editor, Gutenberg versus not Gutenberg versus
Okay.
element.
Yep. So great. So take a look at this, right? This was the Gutenberg. And if I go back to all posts, and you notice when I hover over a post, it tells me, do I want to edit it or a quick edit? What's the difference? If I press edit, it's the same as if I press the title. It's just going to let me edit the entire page. If I choose quick edit, look what it allows me to do. It allows me to change the categories. It allows me to add tags, disallow or allow comments or pings. I can change the date that it was published without actually opening the entire page. So if I wanted to add music as a category, I just say update and boom, now you see that the category music has now been added. If I'm in this listing of posts and I only want to see the items that are food, I press food, and now those are the only categories that I see. Or I can choose it from a drop down right here. Okay. So I have no option. Every time I press edit, it shows me Gutenberg. But I can go to my plugins, and I have a plugin already in here called Classic Editor. If I activate it, and I choose the settings, there you'll see here's the default editor. So in this case, it's setting it to the classic. Here it says allow users to switch the editor, yes or no. I'm going to say yes for demonstration reasons. I just choose save. Okay, settings are there. Now, if I go to those posts, oops, did I not get it? There we go. Now notice when I hover, I get the option, edit as a block editor or edit as a classic editor. You also notice that this is my first post was created as a classic editor. My favorite food is still a draft, but it's classic editor, but hello world is block. So I'm going to take a look at this this one here, the block editor, you see that's how we actually created it. But if I now choose classic editor, now you see, I see how it's all laid out, but notice now the title is up here. It's not inside the text here. And this appears to all just be one big long, like if I add more text here, it's basically just one big long piece of text. There's no blocks involved. On this right-hand side, I don't have an option to change text color or anything of that nature. Even if I go in here and highlight this, I don't have a way to change the, there's the text color there, right? But I have to select everything and choose that, right? Or I can look at text and I can see exactly what the HTML is. Notice that the HTML has these comments in it that says WP paragraph. Those WP paragraph tags indicate that it's also Gutenberg as a block. So if I update this, it'll update just fine. I can go to Hello World and it will look pretty much just the same. You see, there's the color text that I changed. But if I come back to posts, and now if I chose Hello World and I choose block editor, now look what has happened, right? Now I'm back to, there's my title. Here are all of the separate blocks that I did. I can still come in here and highlight this. And over here, I just choose, I'll change my text color to, oh, actually it must be inside here that it's done. There it is. So now it's all black. I can choose, oops. Where did, oh, there it is. Text color. I'll choose red. So there it is now, okay? But you'll notice that this is all kind of point and click. I can now add another block to it if I wanted to, right? So this is another heading, right? And I update it, refresh. So you see, there's the text color that I changed it to, and there's the heading that I added. If I go back to a post that was classic editor, notice there's actually nothing in here, but if I were to edit this with the classic editor, I don't have this fancy thing that allows me to add a picture and text all together in the same block. I literally have to build from scratch here. This is why they call it classic editor, because that's how we used to build it before. You'd add something, you can add this is cool, you could highlight it and make it bold, or you can make it an H1. I can have some items like dogs, cats, birds. I can then highlight those 3 words and click on a numbered list or a bulleted list. I can center it. I can right justify it. But I have very limited things that I can do here. I can't build that image and the text all together. If I wanted to add a picture here, I would choose Add Media, grab the picture I want. Notice it asks me towards the bottom here, I have to scroll. Do I want, which size do I want? If I chose full size, just for grins and giggles, I'm going to choose full size. So that's how big the picture is. But I can also grab the corner and size it down to however I want it. And now notice here's the no alignment for the picture, or I can choose align it to the right, or align it to the left, or I can, where is it? center it like that, right? So I can kind of sort of replicate what we just did in Gutenberg, but you see that there's many more moving parts to it that you have to do. If you look at the raw text back here, you'll notice that here's the image tag, and it sets a couple of things here. It sets the height and the width. So sure, you can do it, but there's a lot more work to it. Okay, so if you install this classic editor plugin, you can bounce back and forth between the two. So if I now want to go to block editor, there's that block editor. Notice there's the post and the stuff that I had put in there is not showing up there, unless that's not the same one. I'll read that. Yeah, so my favorite food. So there it is. There's I wasn't on the right one, but now you see that I can click into these things and look what it says. It says convert to blocks, because this is actually a classic editor block. I can say convert to blocks, and now I have separate blocks instead of the classic editor. But I can still, I'm going to publish that. I can still come back here and choose my favorite food and choose it as classic editor. And you see, I still have all of my content, but now if I look at the text in the back end, notice now it has these block editor kind of tags in there, so that if you do go back to using it as a block, it understands what it is that it has to do to lay it out. Okay, I know that's sort of kind of nerdy, but I think that's a good demonstration of how you can flip between the two. Okay.
Hey, Tom, just to dovetail off of Lori's question, what editor, as a web developer, what do you find is the most efficient and least troubling editor to use, whether it's one of these two or as a plugin? What do you usually use?
Yeah, so I'm going to install a plugin or a theme. I'm going to change themes while we're talking so that you can get a demonstration of it. But let's see, I'm going to go to that one. So the classic editor, I almost always use that. When Gutenberg first came out, it was so confusing to me how to use it. Like, it's not really a page that you type on. You have to add these little blocks and stuff. And it was just very confusing to me. If you're just starting out with WordPress, and Gutenberg by default is the default editor, if you don't add anything, Gutenberg is it. If you learn that from the get-go, it's probably going to be a whole lot easier for you to build web pages than using the classic editor, having to figure out CSS, how do I get the picture on the left? You saw a button where I could flip the picture back and forth, left or right. I can't do that in the classic editor. I actually have to manipulate things. So I would say if you're just starting out with WordPress, go with that default editor, which is Gutenberg, and just put in some time to learn how to use it. That's basically it. Okay, so note I have a new, let's refresh this page. I have a new theme installed. Notice how the theme is completely changed. There's my text, different header. I now have the date with a dot up here. I have a sidebar, all kinds of goodies here. But notice, this is the hello world. Notice now though, hello world, I still have this option to block edit it, right, with Gutenberg. So I can still do all those things that you just learned. Or I can classic editor it, and you see, you go to visual, here it all is just like before. But again, it's kind of tough to figure out, how do I color things? How do I do things? Or a third option is that you see this, it says Themify Builder. So what this allows me to do is if I go into the document to edit it, right? Actually, let me edit it with block so that you'll see how it looks. Edit with block editor. Okay, so here's the block editor. I can add all of these blocks that I want, but also notice now down here, I have this other Themify custom panel. I closed it, sorry. Notice this Themify custom panel. Now this gives me a whole lot of different options to use. Notice there's a sidebar option and it says default. Okay, I'm not sure what the default is, but if I look at the page, the sidebar is on the right, but this gives me an option to put it on the left. So let's just see what happens here. I'm going to update the page and now I refresh. Wow, look, the sidebar is now on my left. And I wrote no code to change it. I moved nothing. All I did was make a choice of where my header goes. Okay. I can also choose different page layouts. How wide do I want it? Do I want to show the image to show? Notice that it shows here, this is the author, the categories, and the number of comments. I can come in here and choose that I want to hide the author and I want to hide the number of comments. Press update, press refresh. And now look, all it's showing me is the category that it's in. So this is all a builder. I'm basically just making clicks and choices of what I want it to do, okay? The power here is, if I look at this builder, Themify builder, this is much like Gutenberg. Here is a row or a block, if you will, and it has this typewriter right now. Let me actually get rid of that. I'll show you what this does. Here is a row. So think of this as a block. Now in this block, I want to put some functionality. So I'm going to put in a button. So I click and hold and I just drag it into the box. And now here are my options for buttons. I want it to be extra large. I want it to be kind of rounded on the side. I want the background to be solid and I want it to be blue. And here's the button text. I'll just leave it all the way that it is. And now if I press update and refresh, notice here's all of my original block content, but now down here, okay, where are you? Should have been down here. Oh, live demos just suck, don't they? All right, let's check. Did I save? Oh, I know what I did. When I first demoed this or did this as a demo, I set the visibility to be hidden. So let me pop in here. Sorry. No, that's not it. Visibility. Why that not showing up there? Okay, now it's got me confused. It should be showing.
If you updated the page.
Yeah, I thought I did, to be honest with you. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, maybe I didn't hit update. So now here is that button that I just created. And notice that it is below all of the content that was up here in this box, okay, for the blocks. So this all kind of sits underneath the text that I put up here, okay? But I could just as well take all of this text, I can edit all of, or delete all of this text and add it to this module. Now, if I were going to use a visual builder like this, I would actually go back to the post and I would open it under Classic. So now under Classic, I have all of the text here. I still have these modules. I can just come up here to this area here, copy all of this text, or actually cut it all, and I can just come here and add a text box to this row. And in that text box, I paste everything that I just removed. And now you see that in my modules, the button is on top and the text is on the bottom. So now this is why it's showing up that way. But I thought, the button needs to really be at the bottom. So I can just click and hold this and drag it below the text. I press update, press refresh, and now the button is down here at the bottom. There literally is no difference between the way you do things with a visual builder. In this case, it's the Themify builder, but it could be just as well the thing that David had mentioned earlier called Elementor is a free one. If you think about it in the exact same terms, this is just a block like you saw in Gutenberg. This is a row. I can add another row here if I want to, and I want columns. So I want a 4-column row added right there. So now you see I can add a different module. If I want an image in this box, then I just say, okay, show me that. Insert. Over here, I want to just have some plain text. I'll say that this is the 3rd column. Okay, and now if I press update and refresh, you'll see that now here I have basically an outline of the 4 columns. There's the picture I put in the 1st column. There's the blank 2nd column. There's the 3rd column. So it's not much different than what Gutenberg out of the box provides you, but this will cost you a builder. This particular builder will cost you, but you can also install Elementor. It's the word Element OR. I can show that to you. Elementor.
Just as a disclaimer, I'm not necessarily recommending this because I've had issues with it. So
yep.
There are challenges with adding a page builder inside of WordPress. There will always be some kind of conflict.
Yep.
And you have to weigh the pluses and minuses as to the functionality of whatever that page builder is in relation to having to troubleshoot on the back end, because that can happen quite a lot.
Yep, you are absolutely correct. It makes life easier, but it's making life perhaps easier at the moment, but perhaps more complex in the long run. Now, keep in mind that once you build with these builders, if you decide, oh, I'm no longer going to use Themify, I'm going to use something else, there might be some stuff left behind in the text that is part of Themify, but because it was saved with this, you still have some issues there. So, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So for simplicity, you get a little complexity. The last thing that I want to make sure that I show you real quick is on our website. Notice up here on the website, it says Team Tom is Learning, and here are the 2 links up here on the menu. How do I get those up there? Like I just created a post, or I created a page called this is a test page, but it's nowhere up here on my menu. So how the hell do I get to it, right? It doesn't make any sense. So what I need to do is I need to go under Appearance and Menus. And notice I already have a menu created here, but I could just as well create a new menu, and I'm going to call it Tom's Nav. Okay, and I'm just going to say that I want it on the main navigation, and I create menu. Okay, so now if I refresh my page, look, I have no menu. Everything's gone. But now on my menu, I want to add the pages I created. So here's the test page, and I'm going to add that to the menu. Here's the doggy page, just a test that I did, and I also want to add the sample page. So I just add those to the menu. I press save. I refresh, and bada bing, there they are. Well, this doggy page is actually kind of a sample page, so I don't really need them both at the top level. How about if I make doggy appear when I hover over sample page? Man, there's some code involved there. Or I could just take doggy, press and hold it, and notice as I move it, notice how that outlined box is kind of indented. I just drop it, press save menu. I refresh. And now look, it automatically shows up under there. And I did nothing. I literally just dragged it. I said, oh, that doesn't look good. I'm going to come back here and choose save menu. And now it's back. Right? Or if I want to change the order of them, or I want to put both of these under each other, right? So now there's a 3-level menu. Make sure I press save there. Now I refresh. Now I have doggy. There's test page, and then there's the 3rd drop-down menu that I can now get to sample page. And you see the menu is the same on each one. And all I did was say, oh, here's the page that I want, or it doesn't even have to be a page. There's my hello world post. I can add that to the menu and now save it and refresh. And now there's my hello world post, which has the same drop-down menu. And all I had to do was drag and drop. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, how the hell am I going to remember all of that? You remember that we spoke about over here under appearance, there was this customize. If I press customize, let's see, advanced options. Maybe that this theme takes it away from me, but there's main navigation right there. And I can style it, but it's not giving me what I wanted. Oops, let me pop back here to the dashboard and customize again. I thought that it gave me the option here for the menu, and it does not. Okay, so what I want to show you, if you don't have a builder option, is that if I change my theme back to the very simple one that we had, the 2020, and I choose customize, notice it has menus here, and it basically gives me the same type of functionality. See, I can drag and drop and move it all around. I don't want doggy to be on top anymore. And now if I press publish and refresh, you see now I still have, I have that new menu that I just created under the customize function. Notice also that because I changed the theme, themes have different things. Notice that there's now this little caret that points down to indicate that there's a submenu, whereas on the other one, it did not. Okay, so once you've built your site, this is the way that you actually give people access to get to it. And I typically go to that menus here. This is the easiest thing. It's a full page. You can add and delete and subtract. You can actually create, this is the place. If I create a new menu, I say leave. This is, say, Tom footer. And I want that to be on the footer menu. I create the menu, and I'm just going to add doggy to that menu. Press save, refresh. So now up here, I have that same menu, but down here at the bottom, I now have doggy down here as a menu item. So if I add a couple of other pages to this and just indent that a bit, you'll see that if I refresh, now you see that I still get the menu down here that I wanted, that I added. Okay, I know that was a whirlwind of a bunch of stuff, and I know this happens all the time, that I go past the time, but if you have questions at this point or are interested in asking about other things, I'm willing to hang around for a little bit if you'd like to.
Quick question, how can you customize a floating versus static header if you want to keep it static instead of floating when you scroll down the page?
Yeah, so depending on your theme, right, if you go to that customize area, you might get something over here. So for instance, here's menu, and it might give you something called a sticky menu, and you would check it. That type of thing actually just depends on the theme, and that's how the theme is built. So if I go back to themes and go back to that, I don't want to say more professional, but the more in-depth one, if I go to customize on this, you can see that there's basically the sticky header right there. And this is to set, font size and colors and things. But in this particular theme, if I go to the settings for the theme, like right here, I can see that, here's the header code. I think it's under theme settings. So there's the theme performance, and you can decide whether or not, right here it says disable sticky header so that it doesn't stay. And what he's talking about is on a website. Let me see. Let's see. I'll go to learn. If you go to a website, so here's the header of the page, and now as I scroll, you'll see that the header stays in place, gets a little smaller. This is called sticky, which basically means that it's going to stick to the top of the page. If you uncheck sticky, then this will roll past the top of the page. The way that is actually done, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who actually asked the question, but this can also be done using cascading style sheets, and it's basically the position would be fixed, so that you indicate here's where I want it to stay always, without question. But in all of the themes that you'll come across, you will no doubt have an option to make it sticky or unsticky, all of that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Tom. I believe we covered so much already. It was quite intense today. Way more intense than the first class. For those who
Yeah.
missed the first class, the only difference, not the only, but still the major difference was the fact that Tom assigned some proto websites for students. So if you do want to practice by your own, we still can do that.
Yes.
We don't have the follow-up meetings scheduled.
Yeah, so if you are interested in getting a website like this, that you can build everything that you and I just went through, you notice that I'm actually working on team 17. I have 20 teams set up, actually 19, there's no team 13, that's kind of bad luck. But if you're interested in getting a team for you to actually log in and do all of these crazy things, with all of those themes, the pro themes and the pro plugins all in there that you can play with. My email address was there in the chat. It's NFL, just like the football, but it's Newberg Free Library, NFL.instructor@hudsonvalleywp.com. Send me an email and I'll send you back the URL and the directions and credentials in order to log in, and you'll have free reign for at least a couple weeks.
So
And-
couple of weeks it is.
Yeah,
If you
and
want to do more, so it's probably the membership question.
yeah, and yeah, so if you had a membership question, we can do that as well. So I just did want to point out real quick that United Brain Association is the organization that allowed me to provide these sites to you free. So if you're interested in learning more about United Brain, you can go to their website and see what's there. Okay.
And the last but
can
not
I-
the least, the whole event was possible because we got the sponsor, Newberg Free Library, providing this event for free for all registered participants. And Open Hub is the organization which is running all these classes.
Yep. Thank you to Open Hub and Newberg Free Library. And I that's the formal ending, if you will, of the class. But I am more than happy to hang around and answer any questions you might have. Okay.